This is an update. I've been quiet for a while because I'm writing a short story, actually, or maybe even a novel. Well, we'll see where that's going. And the process of writing, particularly stories like that, is quite involved, and it's difficult to put yourself in the mindset of actually delivering daily updates on, you know, the purpose of this podcast series is to give people a sense for what it feels like to run a hedge fund. So to put myself in that mindset versus the mindset of writing a story is quite different. And it's very interesting how the brain shuts off, how the brain, literally starts signaling different ideas, different synapses start connecting. It's not as interesting anymore to think about, competitive strength of within the chip industry, or leadership issues within companies, or hedge fund type issues with portfolio management, and all those things that we've discussed. Now we've very thoroughly discussed the need to read novels and read in general as not just a pastime for hedge fund managers, but also this is the business. Now, writing stories, I would say that's a different game. And quite frankly, I'd almost be a bit wary of suggesting that, because it takes you in a very, very different mindset. And quite frankly, it's like a sabbatical. It's a real sabbatical. You're off the job. Don't think you can do anything, make some decisions or any of that stuff, because you are fully embraced, fully involved in the story. And the story in this case, I think I've mentioned it before. I'm gonna start giving tidbits through these updates, because I think it's important for listeners also to be updated. Also with the fund, actually. I mean, the fund, life keeps going, right? Just because I decided to write a story doesn't mean life stops. So I want to do this. I want to give people updates, and I want to use this opportunity also to kind of walk people through my own thoughts and my feelings as a writer. For anybody who's interested. Again, I don't think that this is necessarily a hedge fund type thing. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not sure. It remains to be seen. I mean, it's a process like any other very big endeavor. It takes everything you've got, and when you have to put everything you've got into one thing, other things come short, and that could be, that could be a risk, or it could be an opportunity. We'll see. But I think what's most exciting to me here is really the process of writing, and the sort of talking about it itself. I think that's very exciting. I'm very excited to see where that's going to go. This is not even a podcast. It's July 20th, excuse me, 2024. This is Crony. Since the last update, we're down probably roughly 6%. For the year, we are up 16.6%. The market's up 16%. We're outperforming by 0.6%. Just real quick, before I go into the conversation here, we had some drawdown in Tesla. Tesla has earnings next week, so I think everything is focused on that, and there's really not much to say. I mean, there's been all these issues with Donald Trump. I'm sure this is not the podcast when you talk about those things, the shootings and the fact that he was injured by a shooter, and then later on, almost certainly, at least the perception in the market that he will be elected president. He said a few things about the EV space, and in our opinion, he's just really very short the way we think about politics when it comes to, particularly to Tesla, but in general to any kind of market. It's the following: like the less the government gets involved, the better it is for us. We're a fully laissez faire type fund. This is just by the nature of the beast. This is not necessarily our conviction. I think there are things to be done in politics to help, particularly inequality, and we're not against these things. We're pro education policy. We're pro communication and transportation policy. We're extremely against industrial policy. We're unbelievably opposed to any kind of moral, ethical type of policy, such as wokeism and DEI and all those things. So that's kind of where we stand. But we're not totally laissez-faire when it comes ideologically. However, from a financial perspective, this is the best for us. The reason it's the best for us is simply because it is the nature of our fund to invest in winners. Like that's what we do. I mean, we try desperately to find the winners in, let's say, in the electric car space, in chip space. And so the winners, and when it comes to AI, winning compounds because compound returns are the result of compound innovation. Compound innovation is the result of compound knowledge. Compound knowledge is the result of iteration and rapid error correction. So those things tend to balloon, avalanche, I don't know, whatever metaphor you want to use. So basically, the winners win, the losers lose, and the less involvement, the better. Trump is a laissez-faire type person, just by nature. That's who he is. I think partly because he doesn't want to be involved in economic policy. He doesn't think he can manage it, or he has no patience to listen to people about economics. What he likes to do is, of course, crony capitalism, but that's different. Crony capitalism is just helping a few buddies, literally buddies, so people, not even industries, make a few bucks here and there. That's not interesting to us, and also doesn't affect us at all. So now let's talk about. Excuse me. So to summarize, the Trump situation is like if he says, I'm not gonna give EV credits, good for us. If he says, I'm not gonna involve in any kind of standards, any of that stuff, let the market decide, I don't care, good for us. He's anti-union, which has been very bad for us during the Biden years. So again, very good for us. Just less union is better. Again, this is not an ethical statement per se, although I would say at this point, unions are unethical. This would be way out of the scope of this podcast episode, so I'm not going to go into more details here. However, here's again, the fundamental idea is that with the Trump administration, I think we have a good chance to get back to a sort of Reagan-esque, laissez-faire type economic policy, or what was called supply-side economics back then, which is let's just deliver on the infrastructure. Let's build let's say, a high-speed internet, wireless space infrastructure with Starlink. Let's build an FSD platform for self-driving transportation across the country. Let's build laws and regulations that help that. Like those sort of things are long-term going to help the country and us as investors. Therefore, Trump as a whole, net is definitely a good thing for us. It's a good thing for us, and we believe that everything else equal, he will be good for us. He was good for us in the first 4 years. We made a lot of money under him, and we have a strong confidence that this will continue. Should he be elected in November. Now let's get to the talk of this particular episode. So we had a bit of a hiatus, about a week, and the reason is really that I started writing seriously. When I say seriously, I started developing the characters. That's what I mean. Seriously, developing the characters, thinking deeply about them, letting them go through my head, and living them through, maybe get some inspiration here and there also. I like to, when I read books, also just whatever book I'm reading Crossroads right now by Jonathan Franzen. He's an incredible character builder. I think the whole book is just about building characters basically, and then letting them sort of, flush out whatever it is there. He builds these little ponds of personality, and then he takes off the dam, and then it just flushes out, and then you just see what you get, kind of thing. And my novel is not that kind of novel. I just said novel again. I'm not sure if it's going to be a short story or a novel, so let's just call it a story for now. The reason I'm not sure is because I thought I'm just going to write like maybe a bit more than an essay about this, just a short sort of inspirational story about this person that comes back from the future and stops the Fed on basically monetizing debt. I'm not fully decided yet how I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna do it sort of semi-fiction, meaning some of it will be fiction. Of course, the whole time travel thing will be fiction, but then the actual events will be real, real names, real all of that. That's kind of where I stand right now. If it turns into something that I deem worthy, I might actually have it read by an editor and publish it properly, so not just on Substack. All of these things are still open, so just stay tuned for that. I will definitely post people on this channel about the progress that I'm making. But in this episode, again, I want to talk about the process itself. So let's talk about character building. What does that actually mean? Well, it's like people, characters are mainly people. Right? They can, by the way, they can be other things too. A landscape can be a character, a city, a country, things like that. But let's just focus on people now. They sort of evolve their character, right? There's Modi, who's the person that will come back from the future. You think about who is this person? Like, you want to know. I mean, that's what I want to know when I read stories. I'm interested in the people. This is Tom Wolfe. I mean, not just Tom Wolfe, of course, but he's definitely opened my eyes to that. One of his disciples, Michael Lewis, later on. It's you start with the people. In my whole journalistic career, I've taken this at heart to try to depict the people behind the events. So this is what I'm trying to do here. So who is Modi? And then when you start evolving the character, you start talking about their parents, where they come from, because no matter how hard you try, no matter how convinced you are that no, I am myself, I'm not my parents, you're not. Let me tell you from the perspective of a person. Now, this is me personally, it's my personal life, who's grown up in a country that he wasn't really happy growing up with, immigrant parents, left house in my teen years, not fully, always came back home, but kind of had my own place, and then left for good very early on in my life, emigrated to the US. I mean, first to Asia, that didn't go well, about a year, and then came back, and then the US, tried twice actually, first time also didn't go well. So I was really trying to get out and build my own life, and I think I did in many ways, but I still have my roots. I can't escape my roots. So the same way, I think, particularly when it comes to stories, life's complex enough. I think focusing on a person and their parents is quite a lot, and it helps understand the character. Now you can go further, of course, girlfriend here, girlfriend there, this teacher, that teacher. I'm not going to do that in depth. There's some scenes. Modi's an MMA fighter. It's a subject that fascinates me a lot. Mixed martial arts. So I like to write about it. I like to bring it in. I also have episodes in my own memoirs about it. And what I particularly like about martial arts is not necessarily, the day-to-day, well, this one won, that one lost. I don't care about these things. Actually, I haven't been following the UFC for a year now. I have a hiatus about UFC. I'm going to talk about this because the hiatus is almost over, and I'm really curious to go back and watch some fights. I don't know what has been going on. I don't know who's the champs. Just a full year of detox from MMA, from the news flow. But that doesn't mean I'm not interested in the fighting itself. And for all those now who might be shocked, why is he talking about fighting? When I talk about fighting, I'm not talking about walking into a bar and punching in people's faces. Actually, I'm talking the exact opposite, which is, the martial art that I'm interested in is the art that the fight without the fight. That's Bruce Lee 101. Whether it's technique, whether it's mental techniques, whether it's physicality, whether it's all of the above, actually get into a bar fight in a way that you neutralize the person and there's no fight at all happening and nobody gets hurt and there's no fight. That's the goal. That's what I'm mostly interested in when it comes to martial arts, and that's what I study, and that's what I'm going to write about in the story. So this was a little bit of a tangent back to the character build out. So the character is built around action. So there's action, because when you write a story, like you have visuals, but they're only getting you so far, right? This is not a movie. In a movie, you can have, just the actor or actress can just talk with their face and their expressions. You can't do that in a book, or at least I don't like that too much. So what I like to describe is actions, but then of course embed them in context. So it's actions and context that define a person. Okay, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And where did you end up because of these things, and the trajectory? And that's kind of a big picture, the way I see it. And if I really think about it, is, that's how life works, right? I mean, we're entangled in all these little details. Oh, I did this and that and this. But then if you really go back and look sort of the straight line of there's everybody has a line that his or her life goes through, which is a lot less complicated, a lot less complex. It's just a few things that happen that determine your life. And those things, that's the kind of stuff I try to capture when I depict personalities. So developing personalities, narratives is a huge part of my writing. The other is drama. Scorsese, of course, not Fellini, what's the other guy? Coppola, like The Godfather, like these type of movies. Oliver Stone, Scarface. Well, maybe Scarface not so much, but definitely The Godfather is, in my opinion, the movie of the century, or the sequel of movies. Godfather 1 and 2, let's say it that way. Because it's the story also, right? This biblical drama, killing siblings, father, mother, brother, sister, all of that stuff is just crashing on you, like in your lap, in your face. Biblical in the real sense, right? That's what the Bible is all about, like stories of humans, of human interactions. Whether you want to learn from it or not, whether you believe in it or not, that's a different story. What matters is fundamentally the idea that there are things, storylines that sort of happen around characters. Now, they do shape characters, of course, but the storyline itself, in my opinion, is its own character, right? There's the characters, and then there's the storyline, which is sort of a meta character that is certainly a big part of the whole, the whole picture, and might shape the characters the same way the characters shape the storyline. So this interaction, if you ask me, that's really what the skill of a novelist is. I'm not much of a vocabulary type writer. I mean, English is not my mother tongue. My German is okay. I've been writing in German for 25 years, but I still decided to write in English. Just my life is in English right now. Everything I do, I write professionally. I'm not writing for my newspaper anymore, so my German has certainly lost its sharpness. I read mostly in English, for better or for worse. So I chose that. Maybe an editor can help me on that. There's certainly a little bit, I would like to be a little bit more vocabulary about it, but I'm not right now, and that's okay. There's plenty of books that I personally, Steinbeck, in my opinion, wasn't exactly, an artist with words. Fitzgerald definitely was. So it's different types of styles, and that's perfectly fine with me. So I guess I want to end here. Again, this is definitely going to continue. It's going to be lots of sequels here. Maybe this can turn into a series about the process of writing this novel. I'll see where this goes. For now, I just wanted to actually touch base. I've been, in hiatus for I think about a week, which is unusually long. We had a bit of a drawdown. Wanted to mention that, give an update on the fund, and again, just sort of ground myself in, and the listeners in where we stand. It's going to be a little bit more about the story now until at least the first draft is done, because again, it's a very involved process. It takes your brain in a different world. It takes your personality in a different world. Your thinking, your emotional capacity, all of these things are geared towards the story. I think there's no other way to write a good story. Thank you.